Hello, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. In your last session, you looked at how to build a three-statement model. You actually build a three-statement model and how the whole, cash and expenses and all of that flow between the different statements. Typically, when you build a model like that, you build it for your current year. You probably have a historical year, and you're probably projecting out for the future, which is typically why you would build a three-statement model. Is that you build it for the current operational year, and you want to project it for a few years down the line. So this session is all about that. It's all about projections. Why do you have to project? What are projections for? Who projects it? And we'll actually look at some real-life projections. In this case, a TV channel, a media company. We're going to look at that. So to begin with, I have very basically set this up for you to roughly tell you what projections would look like. Now this is annual, but very soon in our live case you'll see that projections, typically when you project for the first year, it is going to be monthly sometimes. Second year onwards, maybe monthly again or quarterly, and maybe from the third year you probably start doing it annually. Now there are two reasons why you would want to project something. Number one is you project for internal purposes. Internally, you're probably goal setting, target setting. You want to see you're launching a new product or a new project and where the company is going to be in the next 5 years or 6 years. Typically, projections are for 5 years because after that, it's very difficult to really predict what's going to happen. Sometimes I've seen 10-year projections. Especially with government projects. That is one reason you want to project, is for internal references. The second reason you will generally project something is for external purposes. Let's say you're going to raise money from you're going to raise debt from a bank or a hedge fund or a private equity fund. You will make projections because they will want to see cash flows and profitability. Or let's say you want to go raise money from a venture capital fund, equity. They'll want to see projections to see what your growth and your scale is going to be like. And those are the various reasons why you will do projections. And at some point in your finance career, you're going to do some kind of projection or the other. Maybe not necessarily an entire statement, but maybe a snapshot of it, or maybe you'll project all the three statements. But for the purpose of this session, we're going to just project out an income statement, okay, a profit or loss statement. Now, we will walk through all the different things you could possibly project in a statement, and we'll also see what are the decision factors involved when you project one of these things out. So typically, an operating model you would want to start with, even before you go to the finances, the money you're making. Literally, the first item you want to start is customers. The number of customers. That's typically what you would want to start off with. Let's make this a little longer. Number of customers. And let's say 2010 is your historical year. This is, let's just say, for the sake of this model, this is your current year, okay? And these are all projected years. We're going to do some Excel stuff here and just make sure it looks right. Okay, we're going to align this and say center across this thing and say justify. And there you go. All right. So 2011, 12, 13, 14 are all projections which we are going to indicate by a orange. The 2010 is the current year. All right. So let's say this year the number of customers you have is I don't know, 10,000 customers. Okay. Now, how do we get customers for the next 5 years? How do we get this number? Really depends. Okay. If you're a startup, if your company is just a few months old or 1 year old or 2 years old, typically what will happen is you will just make a target. You'll make a well-informed guess. You probably in the industry, you have a huge vision, and you as a promoter of the company, you'll say, okay, 10,000 customers in 2010. In next year, I want to have 1 lakh customers. Let's be aggressive. Let's have big, hairy, audacious goals. 2011, I want 1 lakh customers. And my 5-year goal is I want 1 million customers or 10 lakh customers. And that's my goal. Is that number? Hold on. That is 10 lakhs. Okay, I want 1 million customers. From one, and typically that's how in a new company you would set a target. But let's say if you were, this is for a startup, okay? But let's say you were an established company. In an established company, typically what you would do is, let's say your current number of customers is 1 lakh. You will typically, when I say established company, you're a public company, you probably have a few years of operating history. You'll typically say, okay, if I have 1 lakh, historically the number of customers has grown at about 20%. My competitors seem to be growing at 20%. So I think 20% seems to be a reasonable number to grow my customer set. Watch that formula I'm putting in there to grow the revenue number of customers by 20%, okay? 20%. So 1,20,000. So I'm going to say even in 2012 I'm going to grow by 20%, but in 2013 I'm going to introduce this new product, so I'm going to grow by 35%. 35%. That's essentially what happens in established companies, how their stuff is generally projected. All right. So we're just going to keep the startup thing for now. We're going to take this off. Now the second thing is number of customers. Your total sales, is nothing but your number of customers into the average revenue per customer, otherwise called ARPU. It's a very common term. ARPU is average revenue per customer. Okay, so your sales is nothing but your number of customers into your average revenue per customer. Let's carry that formula across. And let's say in the year 2010, the average customer is paying you 1,000 rupees. So your revenue in 2010 is 10,000 into 1,000 is 1 crore. Is that right? Yeah, 10,000 into 1,000 is 1 crore. Now, in 2011, you don't know what your average revenue per customer is going to be, and it's, let's say, nothing has changed too much in the previous year. You leave this as 1,000 rupees. And here, roughly, you'll probably just, put some ambitious targets saying, if I want to get from 1 lakh to 10 lakh in 5 years, I need to have, 2.5 lakh customers here. I probably need to have 4.5 lakh customers here, and here I need to have 7.5 lakh customers, right? It's just, your ambitious goals, and that's what it is. But here with pricing, you're going to say, I'm a startup, so I can't charge too much in my first 2 years. But for my 3rd year, I'm actually going to charge 1,500 per customer, and my revenue is proportionally that. Again, 1,500. But this year, I'm actually going to introduce a new product, a premium version, which is going to be more expensive. And I'm going to charge 2,000 rupees per customer. Average revenue per product is going to be 2,000 rupees, and that's the number you have right here. And the same thing applies to year 2015 as well. Then, let's say in 2010, let's say your gross margin. This is obviously your gross margin. Let's say you're some kind of a software company, so you have very high gross margins. So let's say your gross margin was 70% of sales, okay, which is 70 lakhs. You could actually make a fair argument saying, okay, next year my gross margin is going to be the same 70 lakhs, but going forward, as I scale up, my efficiency is set in, so my margin will actually get better. So it's not going to be 70%. My margin is probably going to be actually 75% going forward. And those are my gross margins. All right. Operating expenditure. We are not going through. Let's just stay away from interest and tax and all that for now, because those are things that's outside the control of the operations of the company. They just happen, so let's just leave that off right now. Operating expenditure, let's just split this off into 2 things. Let's say marketing costs, and salaries, probably the 2 biggest expenditure for a software company. You'll say in 2010, to make 1 crore in revenue, I actually spend 20 lakhs in marketing, and I actually paid 20 lakhs in revenue, okay, in salaries. You put that there, and it really depends, to project something like this, you could do it a couple of ways. You could either calculate what is called customer acquisition cost. Okay, you can either calculate that and you say, okay, if I spend 20 lakhs to get 10,000 customers, then it actually, 20 lakhs to get 10,000 customers, that actually means my customer acquisition cost is 200 rupees. I have to spend 200 rupees to acquire each customer. Okay, so which is why if you have 10,000 customers, you spend 20 lakhs. Then you'll basically say, okay, since I have to get an additional 90,000 customers this year, you already have 10,000, you need to get 1 lakh. So the 1 lakh minus 10,000 is you need to get 90,000 new customers. So my marketing cost is going to be that 90,000 new customers into my customer acquisition cost. There you go. That is 18 lakhs, right? That is, no, that's actually 1.8 crores. Would that be right? That is roughly right. Yeah, that is 1.8 crores in marketing expense for 2011. Okay, but then after that, you really don't know what your marketing cost is going to grow at, because after your second year, you have new competition, you have a lot of other variables. So it's very difficult to predict customer acquisition costs going forward. So you'll probably say by year 3, other big companies like my company typically spend 30% of their revenue on marketing costs. So I'm going to do the same thing roughly, because I have to compete with these guys to get my customers. And I'm just going to carry that forward. And that's roughly how you would project your marketing costs. Salaries, very similarly, see, I'll show you what a real salary plan and a hiring plan all looks like. But roughly for the second year, you will say, okay, this year I had, 10 people and I had 20 lakhs in expenses. This year I'm going to have 20 people, so I'm going to have double these expenses in salaries. But going forward, typically you would either have your own hiring plan, or you would, do a benchmarking analysis. Benchmarking analysis is nothing but you look at all the other companies in the space and see how much they're spending and say, okay, to compete with them, maybe I have to roughly spend that much on my hiring. And let's say it's another 30% of your revenue. Okay, that is what your salary expenses are going to be. And finally, you will get your operating income, which is nothing but your sales minus your operating expenses. This is, massively simplified, you will notice, but that is helpful for our purpose right there. So you see how a very basic projection is made. Okay, what we're going to do right now is we are going to jump in and look at what a real life projection for a fairly real company looks like. Okay, this is the projection for a TV channel. Okay, it's actually a TV channel focused on education, career development. This is kind of what the projections look like, and you see how much more detail is it. This entire tab, they have an entire tab called assumptions. Before they actually even make any financial calculations, they have an entire tab called assumptions, and you see how for the year 2011 everything is broken down monthly, January through December. In 2012 it becomes quarterly, 4 quarters. 2013 is again quarterly. 2014 and 15 is kind of far out, so it's kind of annually. It's very difficult to be specific monthly. Then all these things are blank here because this assumes that this channel starts operations in April 2011. It says April 2011 we're going to have 3,000 customers, 6,000, 12,000, 25,000, and you see how the customers build up to end December with 75,000 customers. 2012 ends with 250,000 customers. 2013 ends with 5 lakh customers, and 9 lakh and 18 lakh and so on and so forth. You're probably wondering, what is this best case, average case, and worst case? Now when you do a real life projection for your company back at work or your own business, you will typically want to have 3 different cases, saying best case scenario, meaning if everything works out outstandingly, the sun is in the right position, the moon is in the right position, the government rocks, my customers love me, I have very little marketing expense, people are just standing in queue to buy my product, that's your best case expense. best case scenario. Your average case scenario is things are not going that well. I mean, the sun is not in the right position I want it to be today. It's not, my stars are not that much aligned. That's your average case scenario if you're not doing as well expected. Your worst case scenario is typically a haircut, a huge haircut to your best case and average case scenario, where worst comes to worst, what happens? For the first few months, if I have to pay my customers to use my product, something like that, what happens? That's your worst case scenario. You see number of subscribers. From there, they also have what's called a number of internet registered users. They apparently have a website. They have a subscription fee, which is similar to what we saw here. Your ARPU, average revenue, that's the subscription fee. You see how the subscription fee starts at 100 rupees per month, and it goes down to 80 rupees per month. That's it, and it goes down to 70 rupees per month. So the reason in this case it goes down is probably they anticipate competition, and once competition comes out, TV channel rates go down, and that's probably why they're looking at that kind of amount. And then that's your revenue calculation. Then to get to a TV company, so you see how detailed this is. It's a TV company, so a lot of their money is through advertisements. They've said that every ad slot is 10 seconds. This is the total number of ad units, how much they're going to charge per ad unit, and that number goes up. You see, and goes up, yeah. And the reason that goes up really is because TV programs, as your ratings go up, the amount you can charge for your advertisements go up, and you see how that goes up. Let's look at some operating expenses, right? They have to make content, and they basically assume that to make content is about 70,000 rupees for every hour of content, and they've said every month we'll probably shoot about 122 hours of content. So that projected outside, you will roughly, and the best case I have to pay only 70,000 rupees for every hour of content. Worst case 95,000 rupees. Sorry, average case 95,000 rupees. Worst case 1,25,000 rupees. These are all the assumptions that they're making. Then they assume that they need some invest money in studios, production control rooms, and 50 lakhs, 25 lakhs in these months. Again, they have to keep spending money on those things going forward. Distribution expense, you have to pay the cable guys. They made some assumptions for that as well. Marketing expense, the number of marketing managers they have to hire, the salaries and all that, developing the website, how much that's going to cost, a sales team, collecting the money, how much that's going to cost, and administration expense, the number of offices they're going to have, 1 office, 2 offices in the end of the year, then 3 offices, 4 offices, so on and so forth. What is the cost of renting the office every month, legal expenses, and all of that stuff. So you see, assumption sheet this is what an assumption sheet looks like. Now let us go look at what the profit or loss statement looks like. Revenue. This is your number of subscribers. All these assumptions come from this sheet right here. So all these sheets are linked together. Okay. Advertising revenue, subscription revenue, and internet revenue. And what is your total revenue of the company projected out for the next 5 years? And essentially uses these subscriber numbers and these fee numbers to get to this money. Then again, there is the whole cost of revenue, all your operating expenses, money for your content, your equipment, your distribution costs, your marketing costs, and all of that stuff projected out year in, year out. And finally, kind of your operating profit before tax, and a very basic balance sheet. You see how they've not built an entire balance sheet because it's a startup company. They just worry about cash right now. So they just want to see how much money do they need to fund this business, right? Roughly. And roughly how you would come to that is you see all these things in red. All these things in red are the losses every month, the accumulated losses that are used to fund the business. So typically, if you were to add up all these things, it comes to roughly 16 crores. If you add this up, that's roughly how much this TV channel needs to actually launch. Let's look at what a hiring plan looks like. And a hiring plan is roughly the assumptions behind where is that? Like the number of sales executives. How do you get to how many people you're hiring? This is how you do a hiring plan. You break up the hiring plan into the different departments in your company, and then within those departments you say what are the designations you want to hire, and you put a number to it, saying June I need 1%, July it's still the same 1%, in August I'm hiring an extra person, so two people, and then by 2015 I'm actually having 15 people doing content marketing managers. And roughly, and this is your total team, I have only 15 people in my first year in the May of that year, but that grows to like 250 people almost at the end of 5 years. That's your hiring plan. This is kind of what a marketing plan looks like, right? Month by month, you say I'm a TV channel focused on schools, so the number of schools I contact every month, the number of schools that sign up every month, the number of students that sign up every month in that school, and this numbers would roughly match the number of subscribers that are signing up as well. Okay, and this is like a rough marketing budget, saying apart from my sales team which is hitting up the schools, this is my marketing budget. I need to do some marketing in schools. So on campuses there are so many cities. Each city has so many colleges. Every college probably has a couple of cultural events every year. Every year I'm going to sponsor title sponsorship, 1 lakh to sponsor them. So the total cost for on-campus marketing is 4.2 crores. Radio marketing, this is the assumption. Online marketing assumption. Print advertisements assumption. I need advertise in movie theaters, this is the assumption, and so on and so forth. And this is just for the first year, but you get the idea. Typically you would project this for many years going forward. So there it is. Now you have a really solid understanding of why you project, what are the reasons you project for, and how to go about doing a basic projection. One final concluding statement while you do projections is that the kind of projections you do really depends on who you do it for. If you are taking a loan from a bank, bankers want to see cash flows of a company because you need cash flows to pay back the loan. So if you're taking a loan, then you're probably the kind of business, or you're probably a stage in the business where you're going to focus on profitability, where you want more cash flows to pay off your bankers. But if you're an early stage company and you're focused on growth, you don't care about profitability, you're probably going to venture capitalists or private equity funds or hedge funds to raise cash for equity, not loan. Those guys are focused on your top line mostly. How is your revenue shooting up? So there you don't focus as much on your profitability. You say, okay, because I have all this money, I'm going to spend a lot of money on hiring and marketing costs, and hence your top line is more important. So it really depends what the purpose of the projections are. Okay, I will see you soon in the next session. Thanks, bye.